Good afternoon and welcome to NYFP. The Dow and S&P 500 are trading near flat at this noon hour. Joining me today to talk about the markets as well as the latest in central banks is Doreen Mogavero of Mogavero Lee & Company. Doreen, good afternoon. Thanks for joining me.
Good afternoon. Thank you for inviting me.
Well, we've been seeing a choppy trading session today, and we've also had a choppy start to the second quarter of this year. Now, the latest central bank decisions have been digested, and we also got weakness in that jobless claims report. But I do want to start out with the central banks. We saw the choppy reception to Draghi's comments reflected in the euro. Now, we saw the euro dollar fall below the 127.50 level after Draghi said that he does support the accommodative policy. But what do you make of the Bank of Japan as well as the ECB?
Well, the Bank of Japan was really something more that I was focused on this morning. I think that I find it very interesting that they're looking to do some more easing. I mean, this is a country that I think has never really come out of that policy, which is what it was interesting to me. When we're looking at a possible exit from the Fed here, it's interesting to see that after all these years that Japan is not in fact exiting but is back again into easing. So it makes me wonder about our policies here a little bit more. So I think that's one of the things going on in the market.
And now that the central bank rate decisions as well as meetings for this week are out of the way, focus does turn to U.S. jobs. Friday morning we'll get non-farm payrolls. And so far this week we've seen the ADP employment as well as jobless claims miss forecasts. So what are your expectations for tomorrow?
Well, I think honestly that we have to go with the ADP sort of trend. And I think probably looking at them worse than they were. I think ADP has been known to be inaccurate sometimes because it's a smaller pool that they look at, but I think that they generally are correct in the direction, so I'm going to go with them on that. I think it's very clear in a lot of articles today about the fact that people are still very, very worried about their jobs. Layoffs are coming all over the place through all different segments of the economy. Retailers today were shown to have let a lot of people go. So I think that eventually is going to be reflected in the GDP and eventually in the way people are spending their money. So that's one thing that I think we have to keep a very close eye on.
And now that we've covered the jobs expectations for tomorrow as well as the European Central Bank and the Bank of Japan rate decisions, I do want to get your take on what we can expect for earnings season. Alcoa does kick off the season next week. So given what we've seen so far, what are your expectations?
Well, I think after the earnings from the end of last year, I think that the expectations are pretty high and are going to be very difficult, I think, for a lot of these companies. A lot of companies did guide lower, so I think that you may see a very mixed bag. I don't really think we're going to see anything nearly as good as we saw in the fourth quarter of 2012. So I think that that's going to take its toll as well on the stock market. And then you get into a seasonal sort of sell in May and go away kind of a mindset, and you've got summer coming. So I think people will be a little bit more cautious than they have been in the last month.
And Doreen, last but not least, before we wrap it up, speaking of caution, yesterday at the market close, we saw a little bit of a sell-off based on geopolitical tensions. Now, I'm sure we'll continue to see some of those tensions given what we're hearing out from North Korea. But how are you factoring that into the overall picture?
Well, I think that people are just watching. I'm not so sure that they're reacting yet to that news because I think that the hope is that a lot of it is just talk, and that it's not really going to culminate in any sort of action. So I think that that's what everybody's just going to keep an eye and see how credible they really think it is. I certainly think that it's something we have to watch. Obviously, I think this man means business, but I'm not so sure how easy it is to push the button. Hopefully not at all.
Well, Doreen, we had a lot to cover today, so thank you so much for insight and all of your analysis today.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.